Hey Canopreneurs, before we get started with today's show, I just want to mention one of our sponsors. You know, we couldn't bring the show to you without sponsors because it really does cost a little bit of money to get a radio show, a podcast, a video production, social media, a website. Everything that's included in bringing you this show requires a little bit of investment, and our sponsors have stepped up and done that for us. Today I want to highlight Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Dairy Berry's Recording Studio, located in Arvada, Colorado, is your local recording studio with affordable rates. Mark is well experienced and will make your music, your show, or any audio you have sound great. He makes our show come across the internet loud and clear every week, and he can do the same thing for your band or your project. Take a look at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com or give Mark a call at 303-456-8216. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, and this week's show we're highlighting Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Now on to the show. Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project. This is Brainstorm, once again bringing you your weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. Here exploring the business side of the newly emerging Colorado economy, focusing on the business, the patient, the user, to the retailer, to even the geek in the garage creating that next innovation in cannabis. This is the first media platform to help fellow cannabis build sustainable businesses while living the lifestyle. Remember, I'm creating a store where right from the website, every business that you've heard about, every product that we've talked about, right from the website, as you're listening to my show, you're going to be able to view a page where you will see every product and service that we've brought through the community. The Skunk Box. The Skunk Box is for any herb connoisseur. Why? Because it's the premier herbal humidor. Skunk Box increases the quality of your favorite herbs and saves you money by making them last longer. Store your favorite herbs for weeks without them drying out and losing their flavor and potent scent. Restore dried out herbs in just a few days and bring back the odor, flavor, and texture you love. Keep your herbs and accessories safe in the water-resistant, dust-proof, and odorless container, whether you're home or on the go. It's customizable, and here in Colorado, it's a locking container that is for when you are leaving centers or dispensaries with your product. You now no longer have to pay those few bucks for those cheap Ziploc bags that they're making you buy. Check them out on the Cannabis Community Project sponsor store, the Skunk Box.
Hello, CCP community, and welcome. This is Ashley Marie. I'll be filling in this week for the one and only host of this radio show, who just only 24 hours ago lost his voice due to undisclosed reasons. This show is put together over the course of a week, so some segments get recorded earlier on in the week and others later. But before could finish the show this week, he had lost his voice. So I will be womaning the board and moving the show along this week. And what a great week we had. This week's theme is hemp-based in celebration of the month of April. So much going on this month. We have the Cannabis Cup just right around the corner. And for those of you who went to last week's hempfest in Loveland, you'll want to hear this week's conversation with Chris, a hardcore hemp advocate. Hear his story about living for 3 months on only hemp powder, living in a camper with no electricity or no water. Speaking of hemp, we have a clip from one of my personal hemp heroes, with whom I had the pleasure of meeting last year at a hemp fest. I am so grateful to be able to call him a friend today. Ogallala, Lakota, eldest, Alex Whiteplume. He is a U.S. Army veteran, tribal president on Pine Ridge Reservation located in South Dakota. Alex Whiteplume is an icon of industrial hemp. He is an icon for any person to look up to in my eyes. He was barred for life by the federal government from cultivation and processing of hemp after being raided by the DEA in 2002. Alex was only trying to save his family from a life of poverty and violence that he grew up knowing as a child, only to see this violence from the DEA in his adulthood. Before we get into all of this, let's make sure we relapse to last week's show for all of us out there that have short-term memory. The spring break show. Did you hear that one? It was a fun show, testing out some kick-ass edibles, and on a more G-rated level, we learn about our new friend of the show, Aaron Steffen, a children's book author. Here we go.
Just took the gummy edible. Mouse's Edible is actually the official name of
Mouse's Edible,
of the company. So we just took the edible. We got a video of it, and that will be up online and on the website so people can see we actually took this edible. My plan was this. We don't want to just sit here and stare at each other waiting to,
Right.
see what happens. Because sometimes there's a whole psychological thing, I think, that happens with people taking any form of cannabis.
Right. Aaron Stevens. I am a children's author and a web designer.
And when did you release this book?
It was November 18th last year.
Now, why a children's book?
The reason that happened was because I'm a good writer, and one day in my meditation, I reached out to Spirit and God and angels, and I needed something, and I was willing to dedicate my skills toward God, and God responded and said, "Great, I want you to write this book for me." And I said, "Okay, what's the book?" And it turned out to be a children's book about angels. And so had a lot of different jobs. I've been in marketing, product management. I've been writing all throughout my career. So right now I consider myself a writer. And so that's where I spend most of my time.
You self-published. What are we looking at?
I would say realistically, you're looking at about $5,000 to $7,000.
Not bad at all.
It's really not. I mean, you think about that, you could put that on a credit card. If you know exactly what you're paying for, some of those costs, obviously the cost of printing the book, shipping the book, things like that. But once you have it, then it's yours forever.
Yeah. How many prints did you get out of that?
With the first round, I only printed 2,500 books.
And I can feel now that I am slightly
Oh, yeah, I definitely think that it's not a sleepy feeling. It's not an anxious feeling. It's not a jittery feeling, but it's definitely some sort of a different feeling.
For me, it hasn't hit any type of peak yet where I feel like I'm high. I don't feel...
You want to jump off the roof?
If only I wasn't on the first floor.
Oh, that's right.
Wait. Now, when I'm tired, I smoke. And it wakes me up. When I'm feeling lazy or just not very motivated, I smoke, I jump on the computer and I start working. And I'll work for hours and hours and hours nonstop, just puffing away on my little atomizer. So it does the opposite. But I'm also paying for highly controlled, specifically grown types of weed that is now, it's at the top of its game. It's the art form. So that's, forgot what we started talking about. I must be high. I must be high because I'm talking a lot. If anybody wants to try them out, just like me, they can personally message me either on Facebook. You know where to find me. They are a growing business, Upstart, Mouse's Edibles. You can hear them on show number 58. What time is it?
Oh my gosh, it's 4:19.
Just to document that wasn't serendipity right there. It was 4:19, so there you go.
If you have an idea, a business, perhaps just some thoughts about cannabis, contact me. I want to hear from you. I want to discuss these issues: health, food, music, growing, technology, business, everything else. CCP.
Speaking of businesses to be on the show, last week, went up to Boulder attending the Canopy launch party. This is an apprentice-style organization that is taking 10 up-and-coming businesses in the cannabis industry to do a 90-day extensive, intensive training. The well-known advocate, Steve D'Angelo, was there to deliver such a powerful speech, as well as one of our own, Scott from Highest Rewards, who was also chosen to be a participant. Running into a few other friends of the show, this event was business with a mix of party, a story I can relate to very well. I am constantly involved in so many events, organizations, and businesses. We see companies, products, ideas, and there's so many more things left to be envisioned in this industry. We see it in cannabis, we see it in hemp, we see it in so many areas of this plant. It's amazing. At times, it could be your worst nightmare. But please never let that failure not be a stepping stone on which you use to succeed. Thank you all for hanging out with me, Ashley Marie. We wish a quick recovery of his golden, soothing, crystal-like voice. Please look for me at Facebook, and you will soon find me on 95.5 Greenlight Radio FM. Have a great week, and talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So came all the way up here to Boulder, and we ran into Sofam J. Shah from the Cannabis Commodities Exchange. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Good seeing you, Brainstorm.
What are you doing with the event tonight? Are you here representing? You involved somehow?
Just showing our support for Canopy Boulder and, the strong tech and startup space that's up here in Boulder. I spent my first 3 years in school up here in Boulder, and I worked at a startup when I was there. So it's exciting to see what the intellect and the capital that already around the Boulder scene, what it brings to our industry, and see what kind of ingenuity can come out of it. And Patrick and Canopy and their partnership with ArcView is really impressive. So I'm excited to see what comes of it.
So what was your name?
Caleb.
And you're here doing what?
Trying to bring the space together, paint it, bring in the furniture, office supplies, different things like that.
The infrastructure of all events. Somebody's got to move chairs around, right?
Exactly.
Very cool. Where else can you stand on a rooftop on Main Street and smoke weed?
Not many places, and I'm from Hawaii originally, so that might be the only other place you could maybe do that.
Nice. So tell me who you are and what your tagline is.
Blank Space is a brand incubator, advertising agency, and talent firm. We're operating in the cannabis space. I moved out to Denver about 9 months ago, where I've done all sorts of design, development, focus on kind of lifestyle branding, culture, media. We do everything from brand building, advertising campaigns, web, mobile, social. We're really a creative company, so right now we're working with dispensaries, magazines, media companies to basically develop sophisticated strategies, digital content, social, mobile, web. I have clients up in Boulder, some dispensaries in town, and so I brought my clients here just to kind of mingle with the other side of things. I think one of the interesting things about tonight is that it's really a mix of the Silicon Valley West Coast tech accelerator style of things, and Boulder is like the epicenter of quality growing. And I think there's a culture of cannabis here that you could pair it with accelerators, you could pair it with technology, you could pair it with mobile, web, social cultures now, and really start to create a unique culture for cannabis. That's what I come out here for, is to really use the modern world to kind of illustrate, educate, inform, and grow this business. It's a really fascinating culture. Blank Space Media, it's blankspacestrategies.com. We're very active on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Blank Space Media. We're based in Denver. You can find our clients online, and we like doing work, man. We're builders, you know.
So looking at creating a lifestyle brand in this marketplace and really kind of deviating away from the stigma of cannabis users. It's everybody. It's you, it's me. Really we're trying to change the perception of that. Why we're here is to really flesh out the business model before we really go live with something that we don't feel 100% about. So it's really utilizing the resources here to really build out a full-fledged site, which today is up and running, really building off of that and being able to, in the next 12 weeks, take that to the next level. You can check out our website. It's glasshouse.com, GLASSHOUS.com.
So my name is Devin Kukanen. I'm with Glass House. We're aspiring to be an online marketplace for cannabis consumer product. Basically a fresh take on online head shop. And the idea being that when somebody comes up with cool products in the space and they want to release to a captive audience, we're going to be that company where they can go and get instantaneous exposure. we also really want to have a voice in the conversation of like this young industry. I feel like a lot of the perceptions of who cannabis users are in today's day and age are kind of antiquated, and we definitely want to bring those up to like the modern reality. People of all different ages and denominations, people that are successful, people that are artists, people that are basically that's kind of where we're coming from. My experience up to this point in my life has been with apparel e-commerce brands. So I worked for Urban Outfitters for a couple of years, a company called ModCloth up in the Bay Area, a couple other smaller startups. We're trying to really bring the same approach to what we're doing at Glass House, change the perception a little bit. I didn't know what to expect when I was coming into this, but Patrick and Micah, the two co-founders, so experienced, so buttoned up. I haven't had a moment to myself for like the last 10 hours. I've been giving pitches. You know, I've met Steve D'Angelo, who's like a personal hero of mine. After today, I'm excited and anxious about the rest of the program.
All right, we couldn't have done it without all of you, even though I have to say I don't know half of you, but I'm excited to meet you, so thank you for coming. We've had an incredible day, first day of the Canopy Boulder Accelerator. We have 10 startups here that are going to change the face of the cannabis industry. So let's give them a round of applause. All the founders, as we call them the founders, please raise your hands or raise your hats. Meet these people. Yeah, round of applause. These people are going to change the face of the industry in 3 months. I promise you. No, seriously, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We're going to need everyone's help to make these companies go from good to great, but that's our intention, to make them the best-in-class startups in the industry today. So, boy, you guys have no idea what you're in for. So tonight is a $5 fundraiser for the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and I want to thank everybody for supporting a great cause.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Steve, and congratulations.
All right, so for a while I had a profession making introductions, and it's always easy to make an introduction when the person you're introducing doesn't need an introduction. But we're super honored and lucky and fortunate to have Steve D'Angelo as one of the partners in Canopy. Steve has done so much for the industry. Without Steve, this community would not be possible. Not only has he been one of the greatest advocates to end prohibition, but he's been one of the most prolific entrepreneurs in the industry. Steve impresses me every time I spend time with him, and I'm just excited to have him here. So without any further ado, Steve D'Angelo.
Okay, we'll see how this works. I tend to jump around a lot. If I start jumping around too much, I might jump right off. It is possible. It could happen. So, because I'm excited, like I'm really, really excited to be here today. It was an amazing day for me. A big hand for Patrick, the whole Canopy crew, the founders, the companies. You know what? These companies aren't just going to change the industry. These companies are going to change the world. They're going to change the world. And we're going to do it together. You know, I saw in the founders who presented today, I managed to hear 10 of their elevator pitches, and I was just drop dead impressed. At this early stage in the program, everybody could tell me in 30 seconds what they were up to, why it was important, why it was compelling, and why I should care. It was great. It was really amazing. You know, people always ask me whether I imagined that all of this would be happening. And I usually tell them, well, yeah, I just am surprised it took so long, you know? The one thing I didn't really expect was 30 years ago that I was going to end up speaking to a class in a business incubator. I have to say that kind of surprised me a little bit. It surprised me because my pathway to business was a pretty unusual pathway. I was an activist first. I ran away from home when I was 15 years old to join the revolution that was happening in the late 60s and the early 70s. And I quickly became a cannabis activist. I learned that I really wasn't cut out for asking for donations or raising funds. I learned that I prefer to just go out and make the money myself. And so for me, profitability became a prerequisite for effective political action, a kind of unusual path to the world of business. I've always been more excited about ideas that I get really, really passionate about, visions that I want to wrestle down to the earth, rather than like the metric of how many dollars I can make or how quick my exit is going to be, right? And that's just been with me. It's been my whole career. It's what I've always done. In the 70s, I got really excited about the idea that, if 1 or 2 or 3 people were smoking cannabis and a cop saw us, then we were going to get busted, right? But if there were 10,000 or 20 or 30,000 of us doing it, it was basically legal. And so my first activist project was the 4th of July White House smoking in Washington, D.C. with the Youth International Party, the Yippies. And the object was to bring lots and lots of people out. That was the very first one. Yes, indeed. Me too, brother. Right on. Yes. Yes. So here we are, right? And, the whole object was to bring a lot of people to town, and we needed to do things like, rent houses, and in those days we had mimeograph machines and, phone trees, but it all cost money, and so I was a pretty good little hustler, and so I went out to the suburbs and started slinging weed, and that was my first social entrepreneurship, right? And then in the 80s and the 90s, I really became excited with the idea of industrial hemp and the potential that hemp had really to provide a new economic basis for almost everything that we do in this world. Anything that we make out of cotton, timber, or petroleum out of hemp. And so I just became entranced with this idea of proving what hemp could do. And so I started a company called Ecolution. And we made about 100 different products in Eastern Europe out of hemp and exported them to retail stores in 21 different countries. It ended up being one of the most successful U.S. hemp companies. That wasn't my intention. My intention was this idea, this vision, was to make hemp real, because I knew that if you could hold it in your hand, if you could put it on your back, if you could write on a piece of hemp paper, then people couldn't say it was a pipe dream anymore. We would prove that it was real. So it's always been more about the ideas for me. When I got to California, I found a really weird situation. This is like about 2000. There were 2 kinds of dispensaries in California then. The first had been started by really well-meaning activists, long on good intentions, short on startup capital, almost zero business experience. If you were lucky, you would go into one of their places and it felt like going to somebody's living room. If you're unlucky, it felt like you were going into a soup kitchen. But they started taking in millions and millions of dollars anyhow, because there was no other alternative. And that, combined with the unregulated situation in California, right? It was legal at the state level. We had no regulations in place. That attracted a whole new crop of dispensary operators who came to be known as the thug operators. And they had backgrounds, like we had one character whose previous business was selling organic Kona coffee. Now, we're pretty sure it was coffee, but it wasn't organic and it didn't come from Kona, right? We had some other characters who did even more egregious things, and we started seeing media stories about, people getting caught with $600,000 in bagged their garage. And the image of the industry was really turning from one of compassion and service to one of exploitation and criminality. And so I got this another idea, that it was time that we had a gold standard of cannabis retailing, that we would build a model that would demonstrate to Oakland and to the rest of the world that cannabis could be distributed in a way that brings benefits to communities instead of harms. That idea proved to be one of the very most powerful ideas that I've ever been involved in helping bring together. All around the world I go, people recognize Harborside. They recognize what we've done. They've recognized the value. I talk to folks all over who proudly come up to me and say, Steve, when I started my dispensary, I modeled it exactly off of Harborside. It was exactly what you did. I don't know whether to be, a little bit put out or just really complimented. It's the ideas. It's the power of those ideas, I think. It's always lain behind the successes that I've had, ideas that resonate, good ideas that get traction, they don't belong to any one person. Now, the reason that some of the ideas that I've advanced have been powerful and have made changes in the world is because they're not mine alone, right? They're truths that we all are feeling in our hearts. They're things that millions and millions of people around the world are knowing and feeling at the same time. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's like we're this mighty army. You know, what I saw today, the creativity, the passion, the energy, the determination, I'm seeing that wherever I go in the cannabis community. I'm seeing people of all ages and all backgrounds with visions, with ideas. They're out there and they're wrestling them down to the ground. And they're amazing ideas. They're ideas that are going to build service. They're ideas that are going to change the world. So let me lay the latest idea. The latest idea I'm working on you. We're not just about creating a new industry here. What we need to do is create a new kind of industry. We need to create an industry that embraces diversity because we know that diversity is a strength and it makes us better businesses, not grudgingly accepting it because it's a legal obligation or because there's some PR benefit to it. We need to build an industry that really is sustainable, that isn't greenwashed, that really digs down deep and makes sure that while we're producing this plant and we're marketing this plant, that we do it in a way that doesn't destroy the environment and the planet that we and the planet live. We need to make sure that we don't create another massive pile of money and wealth for people who already have massive piles of money and wealth. We need to make sure that we create an industry that creates a lot of opportunity for a lot of small businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs. We need an industry that spreads the wealth, not an industry that concentrates the wealth. And there's a lot of ways that we can do this. It's in our power. We are starting this together now. We're at the very beginning. We set the culture. We set the expectation. We decide what's acceptable. We decide what's expected of new entrants who come to this business. So if sustainability and a commitment to diversity and spreading the wealth is the ethic that we build, we will make it so people who come into this industry and try to do anything else will not be able to compete with us. We can do this. The power is in our hands. It's in our hands. Yes, Steve! We can do this. And we can do it, and we have to do it. If we look back 20 years, 30 years from now, over our shoulders, with our grandkids and our great-grandkids hopefully at our side, and all we see is big piles of money, and we've made them and our families wealthy, we'll have blown it. We will have blown the greatest opportunity that we ever had. It's like some people compare this industry to biotech, or high-tech, internet. I compare it to the falling of the Berlin Wall. We've got this opportunity to create things exactly the way that we want. When we look over our soldiers 20 or 30 years from now, let's make sure that along with the wealth, let's make sure, yes, our grandkids and even our great-grandkids, they don't have to worry about getting their college educations. Let's make sure they have good luck. Let's also make sure that they can look around and they can be in a world that's more just, that's more verdant, where more people have an opportunity to live a more fulfilling life, that's more peaceful. These things are all within our hands, right? Let's make sure when we look over our shoulders, we're really, really proud of what we built. We can do this. Thank you.
You feel like we're friends now?
I don't want to kill myself.
Oh, interesting.
Whoa.
Really?
Hey, nice. Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, my name is Alex White Plume. I come from South Dakota. I came up here all the way to Denver, Colorado. It's a mile high, and I came here because I was invited to join this Hemp Awards Festival because I'm all about hemp. I started growing hemp back in the year 1998, and today I have a federal restraining order against me, so I can't touch hemp, I can't grow it, I can't sell it, I can't do anything with it because I'm the only one named in the 1934 Marijuana Tax Act ban. No one's ever been named in that. I'm the only one. And why is is that, and I'm a Native American, they call us, but I'm really Lakota. What we want to do is just ease out of the poverty, slide into the middle class, and live a comfortable life. We don't want to take over everything, but our main goal in life is to protect our water. Our water is being destroyed at a rapid rate, and it's not going to do me no good to grow industrial hemp if I'm going to water it with radiated water. And so we're opposed to all form of mining, especially the uranium minings, the oil minings, the propane miners. They're ruining water, and people in Colorado turn their faucet on and it lights up, and that really makes us sick. It makes us cry. Why are they doing this, and why ain't the people standing up? They need a boost of some kind to get up and defend what's real, and the water is real. So I come here today in Colorado, and I met a lot of friendly folks, and I'm just honored to be amongst people that are developing hemp in all its uses. People made me a wristband, I got a little knapsack, fanny pack, all types of things made with hemp, and that just makes me swell up with pride. And I wanted to do this. We could have been doing this for the last 20 years. We could have been way ahead in the hemp industry, but here we have to stand on the sidelines and observe other people doing this. So it makes us feel sort of jealous and envious, but again, we're proud that somebody's doing that. If you want to contact me, I'm real active on Facebook. I live way out in the country and there's nothing out there. My closest neighbor is 2 miles from me, so Facebook is a good outlet for me. I learn from people around the world what their movements is and what they're doing. It's under Alex White Plume. It's ALEX, Alex, and then White, WHITE, and then Plume, PLUME. It's a double word.
Yeah.
Chris Farnworth. I grew up in Michigan, and I got involved in the newspaper business. So I ended up traveling all over the world for over a decade, all through South Central America, Asia, working. And that was a very good education on how the world works and the differences in cultures and stuff like that. And it also was a bit of a wake-up call to see how people culturally are and how the control mechanisms in each country, how it's done. And so I ended up becoming a bit of an activist here in Colorado and learning about how the world works and stuff like that. And I waved signs for about 3 years.
You wave signs?
Wave signs, protesting, going to protests,
okay. Yeah. I thought you meant like in front of a jewelry store doing the, offer today type.
That's
type
about where we're at these days of protest is people are doing it for $10 an hour trying to get you to buy something.
Paid protest.
Exactly.
So what is do you have a specific part of the industry you're in? Or?
Well, again, that's why I was explaining about being an activist.
Okay.
Just in general, about a whole bunch of stuff about the way the world works I got educated on and got into some deep understanding. But then I realized waving the signs, nobody's even paying attention. Nobody really cares. Watch the signs being waved.
Not more, right? Information overload.
Yeah. And so what happened is as I became educated, I tried to educate my wife, and she didn't want to be educated. She divorced me.
Because you were an activist?
Somewhat, yep. pretty much the core of it. In other words, I got more interested instead of coming home every night at dinner and watching TV like a normal guy would do.
Right.
I sat in front of the computer and researched and learned for a number of years.
Yeah.
And she got tired of it. So she booted me out, and I ended up in that little pop-up trailer there. And this is how I got educated about hemp. I was actually in Golden, in the backyard of a friend of mine, is where I lived.
Living out of your trailer.
Correct.
Man, that must have been hard.
Well, it seemed psychologically hard at first, but I learned to love it immediately.
I mean, not hard in the sense of space confining because you were able to leave, just hard in the lack of conveniences
Correct.
that you have
Correct.
from a home-type structure.
And that's why I learned about hemp. It is. Because suddenly I found myself without running water, without a sink, without heat. You know, like, where do you make the food here? And it just so happened at that time that I happened to have bought a pound of hemp protein powder, just by coincidence, because I was trying to get into muscle building and stuff like that and buy pure protein.
Okay.
And do that dietary regimen.
Okay.
And it turns out that when I looked for the protein powder, hemp is your highest percent by weight protein
I buy
powder.
it from Costco every few weeks, a bag of hemp seeds, hemp hearts or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
In little seed form.
Yeah.
About $20 for maybe a pound or two. I don't know.
I've got a website where I was trying to turn the people in Israel on to buying it here through VitaCost, because I found that's the cheapest I can buy it.
But the stuff you buy here is actually imported in from someplace else.
From Canada.
Yeah, because I don't think here anybody can make it yet.
No, that's the point we're getting to.
Yeah.
That's the point we're getting to now.
Very close.
And so I learned about this hemp. I'm a self-employed electrical engineer, and I didn't have time. You know, my wife.
That's what you are now, or that's what you were then?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Correct. So I'm busy, man. I'm trying to make a living, and I don't have employees. I got to do it all. It's like I go to my trailer, I'm living there, and I'm going, geez, I can go to restaurants and stuff, but here's this pound of hemp sitting on the shelf. And so I grabbed a mayonnaise jar and some water and shook it up and drank it, and I forgot about eating the rest of the day, you know.
Yeah.
The next day I thought, oh, yeah, I ate that yesterday, and I shook it up, drank it, didn't think about food until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then I'd just go to a restaurant for dinner, sort of thing. You know, I'm a single guy now and, you know, living the bachelor's life. And 6 months went by, and I'm still living off hemp protein powder.
You were living...
I lived off it. I didn't need anything else.
100%?
100%. For a solid 3 months, that's what I lived off.
Really?
Yeah.
Why didn't... that would have been a perfect documentation. You should have that.
Well, that's why as an engineer, I've learned a whole bunch about industrial hemp. Not that much about cannabis.
How long ago was it?
That was 2012, just a few years back. And as an engineer type, after 3 months, I started feeling better, simply living off protein powder and water.
Wow.
And that's what I said. I go, wow, what is this stuff? I didn't think I want to get into hemp or anything. I just ate what was easy, and I was able to facilitate being a single bachelor very easily because all I had to do was clean out my mayonnaise jar. And that was actually a lot for me. I'd let 6 of them get dirty and crusty, and then I'd find a hose in the guy's bag. Right. Yeah, you know, it was a really big deal for me.
How much did the hemp cost, though?
You know, you can buy a pound of it. The street price is really about $7 a pound for
and that
protein
would last
powder.
You how long?
I didn't keep track. I mean, I probably lived off 3 or 4 pounds for 3 months.
So
is what I'm
maybe
guessing.
A month? So maybe
yeah, I mean,
$7 a month?
Yeah. I mean, we can easily feed the world with this stuff. I guarantee it. People say, "How do we feed the world?" It's a piece of cake. And the reason I started researching why I could live off it. Okay, it's like, you know, being the engineer type.
Are you still living off of just hemp? I mean,
No, I'm not.
Now you're eating a balanced diet.
No, I eat all raw food. I mean, Kyle is more normal than me.
Raw
She
food
likes
meaning uncooked.
Yeah, correct. I basically live off raw food.
But you're not saying you're a vegetarian. You just eat raw food. So you're eating raw meat.
No, I got a buddy of mine that does. I don't eat that much meat. See, I eat my protein with hemp.
Okay.
I'll eat meat if it shows up, if we're go out to a restaurant or whatever, but I don't like crave it or anything.
Well, I want to try the blending of leaves and plants.
Yes, sir.
But back to prices again. I wouldn't do that with what I buy now from a dispensary. I wouldn't throw that in a $35, $50 baggie in a blender and mix it up.
Yeah.
But when it gets to the point of being pennies on the dollar, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a YouTube video of a doctor talking about juicing industrial hemp leaves, and he claims miracles.
industrial hemp leaves, I'm hearing the same thing, but just people doing the same thing with
The water
marijuana,
leaves. Yeah, the water leves that don't have high THC content and stuff.
Right.
Even if they do. They
But
do
just
that too.
taking their cannabis plants and juicing with those.
Yeah.
But again, you would really have to have an abundance to do that, because most people I know wouldn't give up an expensive plant.
Right.
For
The economics
food,
of it.
Yeah.
Right.
So until we get to that point, but I want to try it, because I'm one of those people also where I'm always looking for a healthier way to consume food.
Right.
And I struggle with that on my own, because it's
Yeah.
so easy to consume unhealthy food. That
Yeah.
It's just
That's
one
right.
of those things.
Well, I had the chance to actually do that. There's a girl named Carolyn. She grew a bunch of hemp up in Boulder. She said, come on by, give me $10 and you can fill a pretty big plastic bag full of hemp leaves and juice them. And I'd been waiting to do that for a couple of years. And so I did that. I juiced it, and I loved that juice that I made. I'm jumping ahead, but I'm going to be growing hemp myself this summer.
And you've been doing this just for the past few years.
Yeah, I've been basically incorporated hemp into my life. And when back then, again, being the engineer type, I'm always curious about everything.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what's going on? I feel way better than when my wife made me eggs in the morning. I got home and had a nice round dinner with vegetables. I feel better.
Yeah.
And I'm just living off this powder and water. I started researching it. It turns out that the protein in hemp is like the most digestible protein of any plant source.
Yeah.
According to the guy that wrote the book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, that guy is a very bright guy. The only plant source with more protein than hemp is soy, but you don't want to eat soy.
Yeah, so it has its own issues.
Big problems,
Yeah.
especially when you get to GMO, which is 95% of the soy. If you put a bunch of GMO soy in a trough, hogs will walk up to it and turn their nose up and walk away and not even eat it. And so I use that as anecdotal evidence that the stuff just isn't
hog won't
good
eat it.
food.
Why should a person
Exactly.
eat it?
It's like they're smarter than humans, you know? That's the way I look at it.
Right.
But
But before you, because I want to back up just a little, because
Sure.
I want to understand, you're talking about all of this developing the last few years. What were you doing before that? Were you knowledgeable of the industry? Are you a cannabis user before that? What was your experience?
No, I
before
don't smoke pot. I don't even drink alcohol. I'm straight as an arrow. And I just like being myself. That's good enough for me.
So before a few years ago, how did hemp end up in your hands if you were so far away from it?
Well, I'm a health food freak, and so I bought it at the health food store.
Okay.
That's why I had that pound of hemp in my trailer, because I was just I've been doing the ketogenic diets and the high protein, low carb stuff. I've been experimenting with that for a long, long time. I've experimented with all kinds of different diets for years and years. And so that was just naturally there in my quest for protein. It turns out that hemp has all 8 essential fatty acids.
Okay.
It's the only plant source that has, just like meat, all 8 of the essential fatty acids.
That's what I've heard. That's what people tell me, and that's why when I found it in Costco, I buy it and I put it in the blender with my drinks that I make, mixed in with the kale and the spinach and the whole deal. And I put it in a little quarter cup of the hemp seeds. It looks just like that picture there, little seeds. I don't.
And that's
know.
rocket fuel, what you're drinking.
Well, I mean, it's weird because I can feel how it affects me from a staying regular type situation.
Sure.
And I can feel before I go work out, like an hour or so, I'll drink it. And it really helps, but I can really feel it is when I skip a few days without drinking my drinks. Because I'll pack everything in there. I'll throw a handful of kale, a handful of spinach, put the chia seeds, the hemp seeds, I'll put oatmeal and a little bit of almonds and a couple strawberries and some blueberries. And that, it's rocket fuel, I don't know, but I can feel it when I don't have it. So, I mean, I'm there with you. I'm there. I think a lot of people are in a similar situation where they want healthier things, and I think more and more people every day are being awoken, not just hemp, but in general, all things cannabis, kind of medicinal side of life.
Yeah, it's interesting because Mikhail is from Israel, and it's amazing how facts and figures show up when you start to open your mind to stuff. It turns out that cannabinoids were discovered in Israel in the 1960s by an Israeli professor at what's that university outside Jerusalem? What's it called, that university? Oh, it's called the Hebrew University.
You want to introduce who you're with, just so people listening have a
You
context
bet.
of who you're talking to?
Mikhail is my girlfriend, and I met her a couple of years ago up in Estes Park when she came to the International Straw Bale Conference, which I attended. We ended up in a car together and drove over to Nebraska to see some 100-year-old straw bale houses.
100-year-old?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we thought this was a new thing.
No, no. And they were in great condition.
Still made the same way. Well, yeah, I guess, relatively that's true. That's
And by Israeli standards, they're used to, like, the Romans was the last gang
right.
that came through.
That would be old, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. In America, 100 years, that's ancient. And she laughs at us,
Right. Were they built the same as what they're doing today? Same concept, same model? No.
The houses we saw in Nebraska, load-bearing walls, because they didn't have any materials for the structure. And now that we have wood or metal, so usually you make a wood or metal structure, and then the straw bales are just the infill.
Oh,
The
okay.
Nebraska is hardcore straw bale, the load-bearing wall without any structure. And it's amazing. After 100 years.
That's what I remember, is that if it packed right and sealed right,
Exactly.
there should be no reason why things should change.
Yeah, and also they kept it in a very good maintenance shape. And the guy showed us a bale that he just took out of the wall because he did some renovation.
Uh-huh.
It was a 99 years old bale, and it looked like
Give it
the
to the
new
horse
ones.
and start eating on it.
I don't know. He kept it very. We took it to the conference, and it was standing there in the middle of the conference as if a piece from a museum,
Wow.
I came up with the idea of, let's take this to the conference. And everybody looked at me like, you kook. You'd throw a straw bale in the back of your car. And I said, nah, let's do it. So we get to the conference with this straw bale, and they stole it from me. It was gone. So I went from kook to hero, in about a couple hours. And it was kind of funny.
I don't know how much does it cost in the States. In Israel, it's still expensive because we have to import the herds from Europe. But I know that in England and in France, it's very cheap. It's for affordable housing. It's a good solution for affordable housing.
Well, this is where entrepreneurs really have an opportunity right now in building and everything else, is to get in now before the big industry comes in and takes over. I can see it. I mean, I think everybody can see. We can all see where the future is going.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who's going to get there first.
It's a huge difference to build with materials that are from the plants than materials that you're taking from the earth.
How so?
Everything that you're taking from the earth, you can never give back.
Right, you have to dig it up.
You dig it, and once you dig it, it's gone. You cannot rebuild a mountain if you make a quarry in the mountain.
Yeah.
But the plant materials, it's year by year. With wood, it's like 30 years. With straw, it's 1 year. And with hemp, you can make 3 times a year.
Yeah. I don't think the basic economics are in question with anybody. I think it's more the underlying politics of what's going to affect the future, of what's going to happen. I don't think anybody can really argue with just the basic numbers of, why is it better? We have to figure out a way to get past that and argue on a different level. Because I don't think just arguing numbers and percentages and dollars is working. I don't think that's the issue. There's a political issue there that's not about just logical, what's better, what's cheaper. That's too logical. There has to be a way of communicating that goes past that so we can actually embrace all of these different technologies and products and uses and possible industries that come out of it. I think there's going to have to be bigger and bigger change to happen. I don't think we're as close as we think yet.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with us. I think we're preaching to the choir in the sense of what's cheaper and better and, ultimately more sustainable.
Yeah, it's
now we
much
just
more
got to figure
sustainable.
out how to make those in power actually be persuaded to do something. And I don't know if money's really ever the issue, because the money on the other side is bigger at this point.
Money-wise, it's actually difficult right now because a farmer can take an acre and put it into alfalfa and gross $400. And if you talk to the people up in Saskatchewan, they'll tell you that they get $250 from an acre of industrial hemp. So when you tell that to a farmer, obviously they're not too interested in growing hemp. And Mikhail and I actually went to a number of farmers and had them all fired up. They chickened out right when it came time to grow.
Because there's something else there. There's some other pressure. That's
correct.
It's a social, cultural something. There's a different pressure other than just pure economics.
Yeah, we found a really neat couple down in Kiowa that have 40 acres. And they were all set to go. Kyle and I went over there one day to just help out any way we could. And he called me 3 weeks later, and he was real short on the phone and just said, we've changed our mind. He is a federal employee that works for the USGS, and he's just about to retire in 3 years and get a wonderful pension retirement. And he said, I don't even want to jeopardize that. But like this year, I claim we're going to have a lot of people growing industrial hemp.
This is why starvation sometimes is good. Because when people get desperate enough, they're willing to look past social
the normal bounds.
And,
yes,
they're willing to forego
jump out of their
shame and other things that they perceive are going to happen to them. So sometimes being in a desperate situation can be good for a bigger picture. Yeah. So maybe it's a good thing farmers are starving and losing their farms literally.
Well, I mean, you're younger than I am, but do you remember the farm crisis of 1982?
No.
Well, I was about your age back then.
Like 4.
Yeah. And I rode my bicycle through Kentucky.
And I'm from Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, I rode south through Kentucky from Detroit.
Oh, wow.
And I rode my bike through there. And I ran into farmer after farmer that was going, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me growing, they were growing cannabis down there and selling it to like New York City. And every farm along the Ohio River was growing cannabis. And the feds actually went in, exterminated it all, and just wiped out the whole cannabis industry in Kentucky. Yeah. This is all 30 years ago. But when I rode my bicycle through there, I had no idea that was going on. But when you ride a bicycle through anywhere, you learn about what's really going on there. Because you're like on the ground talking to people.
Right.
Just what you were saying. It saved their farms. I had more than one farmer. These are 85-year-old, big old fat Kentucky boys telling me how cannabis saved their farm. And so it's definitely feasible because that happened in Kentucky 30 years ago.
Well, it's the same, they say, if you believe in good or bad or don't, it's the same thing that's happening with the drug war, just from a different set of pressures. Farmers in Mexico are being forced to grow against their will to survive drugs that they don't want to, but they have no other way of making a living. And then somebody comes in on their land and says, grow this or I'll kill you and your family. You have no other way.
Same with the poppies in Iraq,
Right. It's the same pressure, but now all we have to do is just give an outlet for it. Give a legal, open outlet so people can utilize that same pressure of life and just channel it through a legal channel. Yeah. And say, okay, I'm starving. I need to grow a more profitable plant. Here's a legal channel to do that, and have mini factories all over the country popping up for raw production and manufacturing and everything else.
They're the factories.
The whole country.
This is the 1913 Federal Reserve note. It had Andrew Jackson on the front, and they're showing hemp cultivation and the resultant factories. And this is just simply a mock-up of the actual $10 bill. You can buy this $10 bill is made out of hemp paper. That's why there's a bunch of them around today. And you can go to eBay, just punch in $10 hemp, and you'll see these are selling for $80 to $90.
Wow.
And they're actual Federal Reserve notes from 1914, a year after the Federal Reserve was created. And for some reason they did that year. And it's, these are the factories from the industrial hemp.
As much as you're studying the hemp side of it, there's just an equal amount of people out there studying the history of cannabis and legalization, everything else. So we hear all the stories about the paper wars and everything else. Yeah. So a lot of us have an idea kind of why things developed the way they did. This specific issue you're talking about is pretty clearly documented in history, is that the word marijuana, being a Mexican slang word,
that's correct,
was chosen.
Yeah, it was for the movie Reefer Madness.
Because how could you possibly demonize something that everybody in the country was dependent? It would be like demonizing oil, petroleum. Right. Well, how can you demonize that? Our whole life is revolved around oil. Everything we do involves oil. Well, you got to call it a different name.
This is Henry Ford in 1940 holding hemp, and he produced plastic body parts that's made out of hemp. And you see that guy's got a sledgehammer there?
Yeah.
He's hitting, and it's not denting it. It's like 10 times harder than steel, than sheet metal.
Well, I mean, even when you grab that, you can just feel it in your hands as you tug on it and pulling. You can just feel the strength. There's some real strength there. I mean, it is a wonder plant. I'm excited because it's so easy now with technology. Now that we actually have the technology to build machines to do production,
decordicators, etc.
100 years ago, it was very difficult to cultivate and break down hemp, and you had to have these crazy machines, and it was very tiring, and it broke people physically. But now that we have technology, I mean, we have 3D printing. I mean, how much easier is it going to get to take point A to point B, and make it into everything in the house? I'm waiting for liquid hemp to go through a 3D printer where you can just 3D print from liquid hemp. That take a plant, put it in a little machine in a blender, makes a little liquid jar, put it in your 3D printer, and you're ready to start producing your whatever.
It's coming.
Yeah, I mean,
that is coming.
And stuff we can't even think of yet. I mean, I'm sure there's so much of stuff we haven't even thought of. So,
as a matter of fact, she got me going on a project that's sitting right down there in the corner in that box.
Which one?
See that? Yeah, that's it's a press to press the oil out of the hemp seeds. If you can imagine, like when you go to a garage, an auto garage, and they've got like a 100-ton hydraulic press, pieces of metal I developed down there. You just put the seeds in and it crushes it with pressure, and you get about 25% oil by weight out of hemp seeds.
So it's going to be like a desktop.
That's what she wanted, right?
Type thing,
right?
And you just put for small amounts, like for daily hemp oil
for individuals to use.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Like cap full of pressure on oil.
That's right.
That's pretty cool. That's what they're doing with coffee beans, right? Same idea.
Correct.
With coffee and everything else.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do like a prototype over here, or?
Well, I already did a prototype, but going to a commercial product that's sold on the open market is a big step from something that just simply works. Yeah, let me grab it for you you can see.
You got it. All right, so what do you got here?
It's really amazing how this worked, because I've got a machine shop right next door here. But basically, this is a metal shaft and a tight-fitting receptacle of metal. And you just throw the hemp in there.
Okay.
And you just come down with a 100-ton press. You're going to get 25% by weight of oil.
Okay, so we're going to explain, what is this called?
Well, this is just my little prototype hemp press, is what it is.
So this is your own prototype hemp press. Please explain how it works.
So this is simply a receptacle. And we've got some holes in the side for the oil to come out. And this is simply a shaft of steel. But it's a nice tight fit so that hemp seed can't make it out when we simply press the seed down. So you've got 100 tons of force here. And it's going to squeeze the oil out of there as it crushes it.
What type of press are you using to?
Just a Harbor Freight, 100-ton press with a handle on it. Big hydraulic cylinder. With an arbor, to hold it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So this could be potentially one of the first prototypes that we see in homes, like a toaster, microwave, coffee maker.
Potentially. That's what Veronica intended, and she gave me a couple pounds of sterilized hemp seed. The stuff you buy from Canada. And Aguadas, who's a pretty famous guy in the hemp business, told me that the theoretical yield is 25% by weight.
So you got a pound of hemp, you're going to get...
Exactly. If you had 455 grams, you're going to get about 80 grams of oil, 100 grams of oil.
Pure hemp oil.
Yes.
Wow.
Which is amazing stuff.
Yeah.
This is the mind blower. I drove with a friend of mine from Denver to LA on vegetable oil. You can simply put vegetable. Yeah, exactly. You can put vegetable oil in a diesel engine; it runs fine.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and I'm the kind that I have to see it for myself. So we drove together, and we got out at 1 a.m. First mind blower was we didn't stop for gas. That's a real mind blower. It really is. Try it sometime.
Well, how do you?
You'll let go of whoa. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, ooh, this is weird.
When do you buy your bag of chips?
So exactly. So we had like 55-gallon. We had 3 of them in the back of this pickup. So of course we run out at 2 a.m, and I'm going, oh, this is the part that sucks. this seems great, but I knew there was going to be something that wasn't good, you know. So we get out and it's 2 a.m. I go, I'm probably going to get this stuff on all over my hands as we pump his tank full from a 55-gallon drum with this little DC pump.
Yeah.
I'll probably let it fly out of the tank and spray myself and get full of oil and, you know, negative thoughts. It's 2 a.m. Everybody's tired, you know. So, of course, I got a bunch of vegetable oil on my arm. And I thought, I'm thinking this is fuel. So I'm thinking this is this gross diesel. And then it literally, we're so programmed that it took me like 3 minutes to go, oh my God, it's vegetable oil. I just rubbed it into my skin. I know. And then I realized if this same oil that we just pressed out of the seeds was fueling our cars, which is totally feasible,
Yeah.
put it straight into a diesel.
Yeah.
It works. You could fill up your tank at the pump and put it in your mouth and take a hit of hemp oil.
Yeah. I think our technology is going to surpass that point before we ever get to a part where we're actually looking for alternative oils. I think cars are going to surpass any form of technology where we're actually, you know, refueling, whether it's from organic oil or whatever. I think cars are just going to be electric in a few years, running off of some type of inner city grid or something where the roads themselves either recharge or something like that.
Right.
But from what you're talking about, like hemp oil, speaking of hemp oil and prices, so you see that little atomizer there, which holds maybe a half of a gram of oil.
Mm-hmm.
That was hemp oil in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a $30 cartridge.
Yeah.
All right? That's a $30 cartridge for a drop in the bucket.
But that's
hemp oil.
that's like CO2 extracted oil.
Yes.
Right.
But all I'm pointing out is the extreme price due to the lack of availability at this point.
Yeah.
If I had one of these in my home, and every other day I could press my own oil, well, all of a sudden we're talking about coffee beans now. I can buy a couple pounds of coffee at the grocery store for a few bucks every week.
Yeah.
I mean, this is ideally where the marketplace is supposed to lead us. It's not just about, where can I get my oil from, but
this isn't the same oil though.
Well,
is
in
that.
this sense, right?
Yeah,
but
that's
I'm
extracted
thinking,
oil from the plant in the flowers.
I'm thinking down the line though,
right. Sure.
like where things eventually develop and where they end up.
Yeah.
I don't know if half of the products we use in our home originally started with this end use that we're using it for today, but eventually, if we have a machine in house where we can put a plant in it and that machine can extract the oils and make the mush or whatever into something else, I mean, that's what we're looking for, right? It's the ideal microwave where you just put something into it and it pops back out and gives you what you need.
I'll tell you, Tarek,
the Star Trek rule.
What's really difficult about even moving down the road towards industrial hemp is there's such a plethora of things that you can do with it that it's hard to even focus on one subject. It's crazy. There are so many things that you can do with this stuff. And let me just point out something about the fact that Henry Ford, the first Model T, was actually designed to run off hemp oil, not gasoline.
Yeah.
And he got a visit from, the big boy John D. Rockefeller and said, stop that, Henry. We don't want to do that, Henry.
Yeah.
And that's when he converted his Model Ts. The reason that they did that is because they can't control hemp oil production. Yeah. I mean, they can theoretically, but versus petroleum, the insidiously, I claim, horrible thing about using petroleum to run the world is when you understand how you create the petroleum products on the cracking tower.
Yeah.
You put a 55-gallon drum of crude at the bottom and heat it up, and all the different volatiles find their level, and those are all the different products. Let's call them product X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Product Y might be kerosene, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with petroleum is that each one of those products is a percentage of the barrel of crude. unrelated to the economic demand for that particular product. So what that means is we all know that we love diesel fuel. The military-industrial complex loves it even more than the people do. That's why, like in Israel, everybody's running around in a diesel getting 56 miles per gallon. Why aren't they doing that here? Well, because it's not encouraged.
Yeah.
Okay? The car manufacturers are actually pressure on them not to push diesel engines to get 60 miles per gallon.
I mean, even that seems kind of archaic now, 60 miles, when you think about what's to come.
What could be there. That's correct.
Right, I mean,
well, the experimental cars in Europe get 180 miles per gallon. But that's not allowed because energy is a control mechanism.
Right.
Okay? And so it's not allowed. But the insidious thing about petroleum that I think really sucks is the fact that you have these products, let's call it product Z, that doesn't have a robust economic demand for it. The diesel does, so that means they're going to keep cranking out diesel. You end up with surplus certain cracking tower products that are actually poison, and there's no way they're going to spend the money to dispose of those properly. It's way too much money to properly dispose of it. That's why we're wearing petroleum-based clothes. That's why it's in our soap, because they have to figure out how to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's toxic. Now, when you realize that if we had industrial hemp and we don't even need petroleum, that's hard for people to understand, but it's actually the reality. What that means is we can grow all the hemp we want, and we don't have that problem of trying to get rid of toxic byproducts because there's nothing toxic about it whatsoever. Not one part of it. As a matter of fact, when you grow industrial hemp, you don't need pesticides. It's got a built-in pesticide. And I verified that.
Bugs don't want to.
They don't want to eat it.
They don't want to chew on it.
It's really crazy. And that's actually part of the economics of hemp. You don't have to put the $100 per acre of pesticide or $150 an acre because it doesn't need it.
Yeah. And the water usage.
It's 10% of corn.
I mean, what's 10% of corn?
The water demand of hemp.
Oh, the water
is 10% of the corn
demand.
demand.
I mean, that in itself, I think,
Exactly.
is enough, regardless of all other benefits.
Yes, sir.
Just the water by itself.
That's right.
You're hearing all the articles about California and everything coming out that they're in extreme drought. They're first time in history put on water restrictions.
Yep.
Supposedly NASA's estimating they have a year of fresh water left in the state. I mean, when water runs out, we're talking end of the world type, apocalypse.
Water's pretty fundamental, man.
Not Mad Max. We're talking Mad Max style.
Yeah, man.
Running through the streets with hatchets and looking for individual survival. I mean, that's pretty serious stuff. And,
it is.
And farming, traditional farming, is a huge drain on our fresh water system. We need to change the way we do farming.
And that's the joke about ethanol production. I have a guy, again, I'm a contractor, and one of my big customers is a PhD in chemistry. And he was telling me one day he did his own analysis of the energy economics of ethanol, up by Sterling and Nebraska and all, right here.
Yeah.
And he said that he firmly believed, after an extensive analysis, because he was going to go into that business, that it takes like almost 1.1 gallons of gasoline to produce a gallon of ethanol.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you equate the water with that, of growing all that corn, subsidized by the feds, and you switched out the exact same land and water for hemp, you're going to use a tenth of the water, you press the seed oil out, what's left after you press that seed oil is 53% protein, the most highly digestible protein in the vegetable kingdom. What the hell are we doing? There's something screwy going on there.
I think that's a great quote to end on. I appreciate it, man. That was great. That was a great conversation. We're going to definitely have to do it again so we can keep
I'm
going,
happy to.
Because
you bet.
I've got 1,000 more questions. And
there's 1,000 more. There is.
Keep going
we didn't touch on anything, man. I'm telling you. There's a ton of stuff we never even talked about.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.